makers, happy World Card Day to you all. I have been planning some cards with my Whimsy Stamps Halloween products, and so I decided on this card for World Card Making Day. I have this background stamp that I bought, and I got this a while back and was planning on using it for something non-Halloween, but I think this was going to be fun and maybe perfect for what I'm going to make today. So it's called Cosmic Swirl, and then to put on it, so I'll keep it turned over, but to put on it, I think I'm going to put one of these cupcakes from the Schmalories cupcake stamp set, and these are just birthday cupcakes, and so I'm gonna use them as Halloween cupcakes. So I'm gonna use at least one cupcake. I might use a couple and put them on there, but I want to decorate them with this set, and this is the Monster Halloween set. This has been a very popular set and it keeps selling out, so I know a lot of people have it. I'm not going to use the monsters on this card. I have them planned for another card, but I did want to use a lot of the candy that is on here. So the candy, hopefully I'll be able to use with this. And then because these are fairly small, I think even if I used 2 or 3 of them, that I'm still going to have a lot of space on here. So I think I'm just going to cut out the Halloween and treat from the You're My Boo stamp set to kind of take up some of the space on here. I think that's what I'm going to do. So we'll see how this turns out. You know, I never know. So I'm inviting you to come along with me and let's get making. Of course, the first thing to do is to get started on our background. So I have a piece of A2 that's a 4¼ by 5½ inches piece of distress watercolor cardstock in my stamp platform. And I am really working hard to ink up that stamp with Distress Oxide in Dusty Concord. And so I'm pressing hard, just trying to make sure that I get that there. And as you can see on my first try, I didn't quite get it. That's okay. I just keep trying. I'm going to get the image stamped on there in the Dusty Concord, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover the whole thing with some clear embossing powder. And that's because I'm going to do a resist technique on this background so that I can have it be 2 colors. And so here I am with my clear embossing powder. I'm going to go ahead and cover the whole thing with the embossing powder, and then the white spaces should stay white and the purple spaces should get shiny and still be purple. When we look at that, very shiny. So now I can use them as a resist. I did 2 backgrounds and I heat embossed on both of them. And now on this first one, I'm going around with my blending tool and Spice Marmalade Distress Oxide. And I'm just blending in a background that's lighter in the middle and darker around the outside. I'm using the same Spice Marmalade to get some color on this piece of cardstock, but the Spice Marmalade is actually going to be the lighter color in this one. And then now I'm going around with Crackling Campfire, which is a much darker orange. And it was also a much juicier oxide pad, so I had to get some of the excess off before I blended the center again. Then I decided to go back and use a little bit of that excess that's on my media mat and make the outside of the first one a little darker. Now here I'm wiping off the excess that's on the heat embossed purple lines. So the oxide will just kind of sit there, but it won't ever dry. So I'm just wiping it off, and I could leave them like this if I wanted, but I didn't want the Cosmic Swirl to be shiny. So I'm doing, as always, one of my favorite techniques. You know, I use this over and over. I have a clean cloth on my media mat. I've heated my craft iron, and this is just a piece of like copy paper that I folded in half and put over that. And now see how it's not shiny anymore? Both colors are matte, and the purple is not affected in any way by the orange. So I'm doing my second background, and I just made 2 because sometimes I mess up. So, but I just love that. Now look at that. It's just beautiful how it's nice and flat, and it makes you wonder, how did that happen? And now you know. Just do a little resist. So there we go. Backgrounds are complete. I stamped 3 of the cupcakes from the Schmalories set, and then I have my candies also. The colors that I used to color them in, and unfortunately, I thought I was on camera and I was off when I was coloring these, so I cut this part short, but I used mustard seed, going from the bottom left, mustard seed, spice marmalade, peeled paint, wilted violet, broken china, and black soot. And those were the colors that I used to color in all of the candies and the cupcakes and everything else that I used on this card. Now that I had all of those fun little pieces colored, I cut them all apart and I used my recoil scissors to go ahead and just trim all of those out. There may be dies for these cupcakes. I'm not sure. I just bought the cupcakes. I didn't buy any dies. So it just takes a minute, as you can see, to go ahead and fussy cut those out. And I always, with the recoil scissors especially, I move the paper instead of the scissors and it goes much faster. And I also hand cut out all of the candies. There were dies for the ones that I used from the monsters, the Halloween monsters, but I just enjoyed myself and sat there and fussy cut for a few minutes. Same goes for the sentiments. I stamped Halloween and Treat in black soot archival ink, and then I went over it with black soot oxide so that it would stay wet long enough for me to put some clear embossing powder on it. And I left the clear embossing powder on this. I did want the Halloween and the Treat to be shiny, and then I just cut them both out for both cards. As I was cutting out all of the pieces, the cupcakes and the candies and things, I noticed that that background is wonderful, but it was competing with the tension for the things that were supposed to be in the forefront of the card. And so I cut out a vellum piece to go over it, and I cut that out of with the Wavy rectangles border die or outline die from Whimsy. And I think that that really softens it just enough that it allows the cupcakes and the candies and the sentiment and everything to be the thing that you see first. And I'm happy with the decision. Now I went to go sew these on with my sewing machine and remember that Whimsy Stamps has the Stitches stamp set and I've never used it. And so I thought, hey, this might be just the perfect time to get it out and see what I think. And so I just did a little bit of crazy stamping there. And I'm sorry you can't see me. I'm just off below the camera line and I didn't realize it. So anyway, I thought those stitches worked just perfectly and they were just the little bit that I needed on the border of these to kind of pull in the black and just, kind of ground the whole thing. So I'm really happy with that. I would be happy to machine stitch it also, but for those who don't machine stitch, there you go. I think the finished cards look great. And so I have this one with the darker background and I did kind of, I like to do crazy stitching. And so this is kind of like crazy stamped stitching on this one. So I also added a few little sequins. They're black sequins from This Calls for Confetti, the glossy black sequin confetti. I added on this one. On this one, I didn't add any, just so that there was a little difference between the two, other than the coloring and the crazy stamp stitching. I also put things on with tape here and there so that there was a difference in the height of things and kind of adding some dimension. In order to put these in both of them, I cut a little slit and tucked those in so it looked like they were coming out of the frosting. And the difference on this, as you can see, I cut this one much closer when I fussy cut. This one I left more white on it, and also I popped these up. And I don't really have crazy stitching. It goes off in a couple of places because the stitch was longer than just the A2, but that's okay because, I don't like my Halloween stitching perfect, so the stamping stitching shouldn't be perfect either. I went back and added a few more bits and pieces of the candy. I had stamped it 4 times, and so I just wanted a lot of candy, so it just looked, you know, like crazy bunches of candy for Halloween. So I'm pretty happy with that. I like it, and I think they're really fun. And I like the bit of edging there on the vellum. I think the vellum just really softened it enough to, you know, just kind of help your eye. And I think of the two that I prefer the one without the confetti because it gives your eye a little place to rest. Even though the background is still busy behind there with the vellum, softening it, and no confetti, it just gives your eye a chance to rest. So I think I prefer this design over this one. But, you know, when it's Halloween, it's fun to just kind of go over the top sometimes too, isn't it? So anyway, they're both fun. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments for this video. I will be happy to try and get back to them to the best of my ability. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I want to wish you a very creative day. Thank you.